Hey folks, in today's video we're going to be covering the latest Tinto Talks for Project Caesar, aka EU5, and we are finally getting some information on how colonization works in the game. I will say straight away there's some fantastic changes to how this worked in EU4, and there's some very interesting things in the middle of the dev diary. But let's just get straight into it. The first thing he's actually going to talk about is power projection. Now, this doesn't only affect colonization by the sounds of it, but it does have a large impact on the colonization game of your country. So each country has a power projection value, and it is primarily to allow a country to be able to exploit those with a lower power projection. Power projection is very dependent on how advanced a country is, what age they are currently in, and each age roughly gives plus 10 modifier to this. It can also be modified by societal values, the rank of the country, and much more. One important aspect is that the plus 10 advance in the Age of Traditions is in the advanced tree for meritocracy, so if you don't have that, you won't get the plus 10 in the Age of Traditions. You do not gain power projection by doing things. It is entirely based on your country's current setup. So how you really set up your country, what kind of country it is, that is going to affect how much power projection you have. I'm sure most of us will think, well, I just want to max it out as much as I want. But there is going to be a trade-off for that, for the things you have to pick to make it good. And as you can see here, Sweden is not overpowered. Here's the power projection of Sweden. Outward 1.5 and Kingdom gives it plus 5. I think the outward is a societal value about trying to colonize in this example. I think try to colonize the rest of Scandinavia and then obviously maybe further afield, maybe not as historical, but I do believe outward is a societal value all around, like expanding your realm, maybe directly through colonization, or maybe just outwards, like maybe through conquest and things like that as well. I'm sure we'll get much more information about societal values in a later dev diary. The next part's going to talk to us about colonial charters. So how does this work in Project Caesar? Well, you colonize by starting a colonial charter in a province, and this costs you gold up front. Then each month, some of your population will start moving from the homeland to the colonial charter until all locations that can be owned are owned by you. In almost all cases, there are people living in a location that you want to colonize. So for you to be able to have a charter to flip its ownership to you, there are a few rules. A location needs to have at least 1,000 people living there, and a certain percentage of the population needs to follow your state religion and be of an accepted culture of your country. So I will say this means you can't really just send like people that you don't want in your realm to go colonize somewhere. You can do that in EU4. You can just send whoever you want really, and they'll just colonize somewhere. And as soon as you press that button to say colonize, you claim that spot. Like, your colony can fail, but 9 times out of 10, even higher than that, I think, you pretty much always get the land that you try colonize, as long as you can actually maintain it to completion. Now, what this means here, and Johan doesn't really go too much into it in the actual dev diary itself, but this is a spoiler for one of the comments he does make, is that the 1,000 people living there, you can actually have, like, rival countries trying to colonize the same province at the same time, and whoever wins the race then claims that colony area. But all the people who moved there, they still live there. So it's pretty cool how this works. You're going to get a lot more like dynamic colonization. It isn't just like I race to the bits I want, claim them, and then as soon as I've pressed that button, they're mine unless it fails. In this version of it, it's all about getting the right amount of people there and then the right type of people. So as it says, they need to follow your state religion and have the accepted culture of your country, because they're going there to kind of spread your realm to other places. You can't just send like riff-raff anybody to do it. That isn't how it's going to work. You can send them later on once the colony's set up, but for the initial colonization, you do need to set it up, I guess, properly, if you want to think about it that way. As you can see in this next tooltip, you can see the colonial progress where Sweden is trying to settle here. You can see they've got 2 at 100%, and then some at much lower percentages, and they do need to keep colonizing the rest of it to make the full claim in this area. And as they were saying, you do need to hit that certain percentage to claim it directly for yourself, and this percentage depends heavily on the difference in power projection of your country versus the other countries in that location. So whoever has the highest power projection is going to be easier for them to claim it. The ones with low ones can. It's just going to be much harder for that. And if all that sounds like we need more information, that is actually going to be talked about in next week's dev diary. They're going to go into more information about how the actual claiming of land against other nations is going to work. And if you're thinking, well, that sounds pretty cool, but it's nothing too crazy, I'm going to blow your mind. In this, it sounds like, from the next bit, that you could colonize places that already have an established country. So he says here that the implication of this is that at the start of the game, Yuan could in theory start colonizing Europe if only it had been closer and discovered. How the countries and pops already present in that location react to your colonization is something they're going to clarify in a later Tinto talk. So from this, it sounds like in theory, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here, you could play as like Castile and then just try colonizing Morocco, and it's more like you won't have a very good chance of doing it, but theoretically you could try do that. If I'm reading this correctly anyway, because it does sound like from that passage that Johan is saying any country can in theory colonize any area of the map. It's just if there's an established country there, it's going to be very hard to do so. Obviously, there are established natives in North America and places like that, but with the kind of power that the Europeans and other nations have, it's a little bit easier for them to kind of push them out the way, all that kind of stuff that happened. Whereas two very advanced nations, it's going to be basically impossible for them to like out-colony each other into lands that they already own. They're kind of like home country. That's not really going to be possible, but it sounds like in theory it could be possible. So that is wild if that is correct, how I'm reading that. That is really, really crazy. It would be amazing to see something like that actually try to happen in the game. As long as you have a colonial charter, people from your owned locations will start moving to the locations in the colonial charter. The amount of people moving is very low at the beginning of the game, but there are advances that will increase it as you progress through the ages. Societal values have an impact on it, so does the distance to the colony, and we're going to see a screenshot of that in a second. One thing to take into account is that colonization does not magically create population out of the air, so being able to create a huge colonial empire is not really feasible as a low population country. So if you want to have these massive spanning empires, you are going to have the population at home, again, of your religion, of your primary culture, to be able to have all these colonies everywhere else. So again, that's going to change up a little bit on how the actual colonization is going to play. And you can see here the monthly migration to the Swedish colony is going up by 25 per month from the colonial charter, plus 20 colonial investments. I guess that's the money you're putting into it. Distance from Stockholm, it is relatively close to it. And then outward, plus 30% migration. Again, that is where I think outward is a societal value based on like colonizing other places or migrating your people elsewhere by the looks of it. Colonial charters, these are not free, and moving people is definitely not free, and countries will need to support this. The higher the population in the target province, the more expensive it is to colonize. The distance also has an impact, but colonizing in the same area or region as your capital is significantly cheaper. You can always cut costs to your charter, but that will also reduce the amount of population moving there every month. So you can already see from this, they are going to talk about it next week, but you can see it is more expensive to colonize places that already have a higher population. So again, that's going to be one way to prevent you just colonizing other established nations, by the sound of it anyway. But you can see here, cost of colonies in the Swedish colony, population is making it go up by 0.3, distance is 0.02, it's very close, and then the same region that is modifying it by minus 33%. So again, if it's very close to your capital, you're going to be able to colonize relatively cheaply and relatively quickly as well. Once you've claimed all that land, you need to decide what to do with that land. So when a colonial charter is finished, all possible locations of that province have become yours. You have multiple options of what you want to do when the charter ends. If the province is close and you think you might get a decent enough control over it, you might just want to keep it as a location in your home country, so it would become actually Sweden on the map. It wouldn't be a colony of it. You also have the option to have the province form a new colonial nation or have it joined to an adjacent colonial nation. So that's how you can kind of set up America as one colony. And then if you go like north or south of where you set up that North American colony, you could in theory have them as separate colonial nations, but you're probably just going to integrate it into America and just make America bigger, if you want to think of it that way. Colonial nations are a subject type that cannot be annexed, but it has a few advantages or disadvantages, depending on your point of view, in that they will start transferring less gold than a vassal would. They also grant some manpower and sailors, while also giving part of their merchants to the overlord. To clarify, you can make colonial nations anywhere on the map where you want to colonize, so it isn't limited to certain areas. I believe in EU4, again, someone could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I think it was only limited to certain areas of the map, wasn't it? Once you've set up your colony, well, you've got to support them. So if you feel that your charters or colonial nations are not growing enough, there are two tools you can use in your cabinet. Both of these become available in the Age of Discovery. With supporting a colonial charter, you will move pops from a province you decide upon to the colonial charter you have decided. The amount of pops being moved depends on your current colonial migration capacities, so when you use it, you're about to double the migration to a specific location. With the supporting colonies, you can move about 100 pops per month from a selected province to a target province in a colonial nation. This can be useful when you want to boost a colony and you have overpopulated provinces at home, or when you think your country could be in a better situation if you expel some minorities. So as I was saying at the beginning, you can't like found a colony with minorities, but you can send them there once it is set up. And with all of this, what are the restrictions to colonization? As I've said, it sounds like they're pretty crazy. You can do whatever you want. Well, no, there are treaties historically that affected this, and they are going to be brought into the game as well. So there are several ways you can block another nation from colonizing certain places. These include treaties. At the start of the game, Norland, Finland, Karelia, and Kola are under the claims of Sweden and Novgorod, who have divided the area between them. We also have the situation with the Treaty of Tordesillas, where the New World was split between two Catholic powers, causing a lot of interesting dynamics, and that is going to be in the game, which is pretty cool as well. That is the split between Spain and Portugal, and where they kind of split up the New World to where they could settle their colonies. And with all of that, that is the end of the Dev Diary of Colonization. Our first initial look, as I said at the beginning, I think if you've played EU4, it's not going to be anything too crazy, but as you can see, there are a lot of changes to it, and I think a lot of cool changes. And that is what they're going to talk about next week. That is going to be the difference between countries and why owning locations is not all there is to life. Now, they do show a picture here. This is of the Sami people in northern Scandinavia. I don't know what this means. Let me know in the comments down below. They do say here, what is this teaser about? I wonder if you can, like, send your people into other nations and then it has some kind of effect on them. I'm not too sure. Maybe that is what it's talking about. And that would kind of fit into what he was saying earlier about when you're colonizing, you can have like 3-4 countries trying to colonize the same place, and it is whoever wins that race who gets the claim on it and actually takes it. But I wonder if you can have some kind of function of your people being there, having some kind of influence on it. Maybe they could like rebel and then join your country or something like that. That might be the case, actually, thinking about it. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do give a guess there. Let's see what we think it might be. And then next week, we'll obviously talk about it. But with all of that, we're going to leave it there for today. As always, hit that like button if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new here. I'm covering Project Caesar, aka EU5, up to official announcement, launch and beyond. And I cover Crusader Kings 3 in a very similar manner. So do hit subscribe if you've enjoyed it. But we'll leave it there, and I'll see you in the next one.